Hey, everybody. We are back at the Thrive Well podcast. I am here with Caliber extraordinaire, James Taveggia. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. So you've been in the industry for nearly 20 years.
Yeah, 19-year anniversary this past June.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it seems like a lifetime ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Which means you've been through tons of real estate cycles.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
So with that said, I mean, at least 3 in totality, real estate cycles, like just about. What would you say is the vast difference between this current marketplace and any other marketplace that you've experienced?
Other than 2008, this is the toughest one. I don't necessarily think that rates have as big of an impact on it as people would like to think. I think that the inventory issue that we have right now is the biggest problem. Mm-hmm. There are people that would rather buy versus rent, no matter what they're paying in the form of a rate, because there's no tax deduction to the rent. You're not building equity. And I think there's a lot of consumers out there that feel that way. I think our biggest hurdle right now is with all of the real estate that took place in 2020, 2021, mm-hmm. even in halfway into 2022, have rates in the 2s, 3s, low 4s. And these are people that have, quite frankly, built a ton of equity, are probably ready to move out for various reasons, growing family, more space, et cetera. And it's hard to get off of that kind of an interest rate to know that you're going to go into a new home and your payment's going to double, even though the mortgage payment, or balance, I should say, should be relatively close with the equity that you're getting from the previous home. And I think it's going to take rates in the mid to low 5s to get people to shift out of those types of situations. And I think that will really help out the market, but it doesn't matter with the inventory issue. You're still going to have 8 buyers, open houses with 30 people walking through. Mm-hmm. It's ultra competitive. And that part of the business, it just sucks. Mm-hmm. It just really does. There is nothing fun about going up against 10 other offers and having to do these highest and best and appraisal guarantees and waive inspection. It's just, it's a little wacky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not only wacky, it's completely unfair. Like, there's no fairness. And I think that's what I'm finding a lot of realtors having a hard time with, is they're looking to level the playing field, and you just can't.
No.
You just can't. So you work with a lot of realtors. You work with Thrive Realtors. You work with all sorts of different brokerages and sales teams. What would you say that would be the winning trait to realtors that are doing well enough in today's market?
I would say team structure. Quite honestly, I mean, not just because I'm on this podcast with you, but the structure that you guys have set up to help the agents. They can be more focused on selling, do the things that matter. I think that the teams that are seasoned, that have been around for a while, that offer the type of coaching that you guys do, are the teams that are being the most successful right now. Yeah, and you have some one-off agents that have been doing this for a long time that are going to win no matter what the market looks like. They have a large umbrella of referral sources, past clients, stuff like that. But the teams that are winning right now, in my opinion, are the teams just like you that are offering the continuing education, identifying that this market sucks, not just saying, hey, hit the phones, but here's some solutions. Here's some things that you can be doing to help out your clients, to help out your business, and staying on top of that.
Love it. Now, let's flip to buyers. Since you're a lender, you're helping people purchase homes, you're funding. What is it that you would say to a home buyer today that gives them a competitive advantage?
So as a first-time home buyer, defined as someone that has not owned real estate in the previous 3 years, we have more grants accessible to them right now than ever. And with Fannie and Freddie, which ultimately, for anybody that's listening to this podcast that doesn't know who I'm speaking of, these are the agencies that insure, call it made up statistic, I don't know, 90% of conventional mortgages. But the majority go through Fannie and Freddie. And There are grants in the form of MISTA, which is Michigan State Agency Bond Program, that now allow any consumer to get up to $10,000. It used to be maxed out at 4% of the purchase price, no more than $7,500, except for in high needs area. And now anyone that is approved for MISTA can get that grant. That's huge.
Which is incredible.
Exactly. Somebody with a relatively low balance doesn't have to go out, make an offer contingent upon the seller giving them some form of sales concessions. They have a grant that covers the down payment, will cover the loan costs, cover the escrows. $200,000 home, the borrower's output is $2,000. That's all they need. Now, obviously, going up against other potential offers, you're not going to be in a spot where you can compete with those real hot properties, but properties are still in good shape. Maybe need a little TLC, some sweat equity. They're players now. And even if you don't need the down payment assistance, they have a much more favorable rate than current market if you go without the down payment assistance. And Caliber has a grant that we just approved with Freddie. We've been doing it now for about 2 months. All of this stuff is ultimately based on what the area median income is for that particular county. And we now have a grant that gives $3,000. It's forgivable immediately upon closing for a client that makes up to almost $136,000. So It's not just for, the low to moderate income type scenarios. And we have one coming through Fannie, same deal, that's going to be up to $5,000. Those have not been as prevalent and as spoken about or quite frankly, used as they are being used right now.
So if I'm a home buyer and I'm working with you, is this something that you're bringing forth as an LO to educate them right away? Or are you waiting for the perfect scenario? Consumer doesn't even know this exists. And sometimes you offer it out, sometimes you don't.
No, I'm offering it to every single client out there. People have a misconception with MISTA. If not done properly, it can drag on. But these are normal conventional loans most of the time that close start to finish in 30 days. So there's nothing that differentiates their offer versus same situation, but maybe borrowers getting a gift from a relative, and it all works on the same timeline the same way. But I'm making sure that every client that we speak with knows, because not every single lender participates in MISTA, so it gives us a little bit of competitive edge. B, that's not the only grant that we have access to. I mean, there's clients that are ultimately approved for both of these grants. Now, you can't use them in conjunction with each other, but you can pick one or the other. And somebody that has the money, quite frankly, that doesn't need help with the down payment assistance, they might decide to take that free $3,000. Now, instead of giving them a rate at 6.875% today, they're down to 6.25%. They're buying points to get it, but they're not really paying the points because they're getting everything credited back to them anyways. That's one situation we can kind of help make that payment a little bit lower and a little bit more competitive than market. I don't necessarily always pitch the lower rate. I would rather see the client take par market rate. Then the majority of their fees are covered, and the undoubted time is going to come for them to refinance, whether it's in 6 months, a year, whatever. So why buy it down? Why not make this loan free? So when the interest rates are more advantageous, potentially in the 5s, you can refinance and it really doesn't cost you anything.
Right. And I think that's the one piece I wish the consumer had a little more education on, is the holding pattern of 6 to 12 months, even 18 months with a higher rate really is not that big of a deal.
No.
And if you took that, you didn't have cash out of pocket with some of these grants and some of these opportunities, and then you refi, you're golden.
Yeah.
It could either be a wash or even a plus, most likely.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
and
stuff.
It could be hundreds of savings down the road. And I think that's the hardest thing sometimes to get through to a consumer, is that, I hate the cliche saying, but for the longest time, you heard everybody posting, date the rate, marry the house. Mm-hmm. It sounds terrible coming out of my mouth right now because I got sick and tired of hearing, but it really is true, right? The idea is if you have the perfect situation with the home and you have an opportunity to get an offer accepted, and that's where you're going to be long-term, then don't look at the mortgage as a 30-year commitment at this rate of interest, because historically people refinance every 3 to 5 years anyways.
Exactly. And I think it's people like you willing to go there, educate them, talk about opportunity that maybe some other LOs wouldn't necessarily do because it's buying down points and the rate's going to be a little different. I love that you and your team do this. It is a huge reason why we work together so often. So being that we've worked together, you have come with us on our Exactly What to Say journey.
Yes.
And so you flew out to New York and actually sat with the author and myself on this book called Exactly What to Say. knowing communication in both of our lanes, whether it's on the loan officer side or the real estate side, is so critical to our results. How has this impacted you and your team and the way you go about communicating with your clients and other realtors? I mean, realtors are your clients as well.
Yeah. So definitely life changing in my approach, my speech pattern, my thought process before something comes out of my mouth. It makes you think a lot more. And what seems so easy is a heck of a lot harder to implement. It's something you have to continuously practice and do. I was so pumped by this experience that I had. And it's one of those things that you can't really truly comprehend until you go through the class and you walk out with this knowledge that you otherwise didn't have. You know that I had the luxury of having Caliber help me out with the cost of that class.
Yes.
And to be quite honest, walking into that, if I didn't have that financial help, I don't know that I would have bit off that much of a chunk per se. But after going through the class, I would have paid twice the amount out of my pocket just based on the experience. Everybody got a exactly what to say book. On my team, when I came home, it was a homework assignment. They had till the end of the month to read it, even though you can really get through it in a day or two.
Yeah, right. Okay, being that you have a small team, this is something that I've had the privilege of having branches, having JVs, having exclusive loan officers that I work with throughout my career. Working with someone that has a team that is as well suited as yours. I mean, you have a marketer, you have people that are within databases and calling leads, and they're helping clients understand what the opportunity is within their particular situation. What is it that drove you to create a team in the mortgage industry?
So great question. So I was a sales director for Quicken Loans a long time ago, and I absolutely hated it.
Oh.
And I never thought that I would want to get into management again. I married my wife on January 18th of 2020.
Okay.
Right before COVID hit. And as you know, when COVID hit, so did the rates in the form of hitting the floor.
Yes.
And I think it took till July before my wife was ready to call in the divorce conversation.
Shoot.
And God bless her. She's just like, listen, like, I get it. I know that you have this huge book of past clients. I know the money's coming in, but like, I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah, I want you.
Yeah. When you're the only person that's running, a database of a couple thousand past clients. And I mean, Jess, I was waking up at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. Normally I'd go right back to bed till 8.
Oh yeah, you're a late riser. That's right. Yes.
And I couldn't go back to bed because I'd be, well, John Smith's got a rate lock expiring tomorrow. I got to take, I was just restless in my head. I couldn't go to bed. And sometimes I would go, because we're working from home during COVID. Nobody was allowed to go to the office. So I'd roll out of bed at 6:30, maybe dip out of my office for lunch if my wife didn't bring it to me in the office because I really just didn't want to move from that spot. The ordinary bathroom breaks type stuff. But there'd be nights I wouldn't come back to bed till 1, 2 in the morning.
Wow.
And so in a very long explanation, my wife was annoyed because all I did was work. I knew I needed to make a change, but the loan officers that I've had experience with, I don't like bringing on people from other institutions that have already been quote unquote doing this because they bring bad habits, and it's way too easy for those habits to become the norm, and then they start to become part of your culture. So I decided I wasn't going to hire a loan officer. I was going to train one. And I took a really good friend of mine that worked for my father at Art Van in management sales for a long time. And it was an opportunity for him, an opportunity for me. And I created my team with one loan officer. I already had an assistant, and he worked out amazingly well, and then brought my brother on about a year later. We did have another guy by the name of Chris, one of my best friends, amazing guy. Didn't make it through the thick of the storm like a lot of people unfortunately didn't. But the point is that I trained guys to do things the way that I do mortgage, and whether that's right, wrong, or indifferent, so far it's worked out pretty good.
Right. Yeah. It's beautiful. I think anytime you can take your own book of business, share a bit, and then help others create their own.
Yep.
It's beautiful. That's a lovely job. And we've enjoyed working with your team so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We love working with you guys too.
Thank you. What would you say that when you're looking at realtors and what they're doing right now to work with home buyers, like we talked about, it's difficult out there. You've got 8 home buyers to 1 home. What are ways in which you're setting them up to take down that listing, to get the offer won?
So me personally, what I'm doing to help out agents, I better know, I want to be CC'd on that email when the contract is sent through with the offer to the listing agent. I want to know exactly who the listing agent is. I want to know what the terms of the offer are. I want to make that phone call and let the agent know that I have verified income assets. I know this stuff seems like common sense, but a lot of loan officers don't do it. But just having that reassurance, like instead of an agent having to trace down the loan officer, their first experience with this loan officer is, hey, you have an offer that came in. Let me offer you some pieces of information on my client. I can't give you all of the details, but I can give you enough to make you feel confident. And by the way, we do a couple hundred of these a year. Here are my reviews. Please share this with the seller so that she knows that the house is in good hands with the buyer and the financing. And that's a conversation that I try to have as long as the agent allows me to on every single deal. And believe it or not, it works in a lot of situations. I've had clients call me and thank me because the agent let them know that, hey, I had a discussion with the listing agent and there was some really close offers comparable to yours, but she or he felt really comfortable with the conversation they had with James. And I get those text messages all the time. And so it reinforces and gives me the confidence to know that it's working, and I've continued to do it. And does it work every time? No, absolutely not.
Right. Of course. Nothing does. We wish it did. But I think speed to action on that, the action economy of your team for a realtor person out there is a massive advantage, right? And it's not like this is rocket science. We're not the first people to think like, hey, could you reach out to the listing agent? However, the fact that this is part of your process, it's consistent, you demand it, that is a difference, right? It's written on stone. This is what we do, and this is how we do it.
I think so. It's part of who we are, and it definitely helps us distinguish ourselves versus the average other person out there too, because there's a lot of us out there. It's highly competitive. Anything you can do to differentiate yourself in this market, you have to do. Absolutely. And that's definitely a key one.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. We've been hearing a lot about, and I assume it's the same in mortgage land, get back to basics, right? Let's get back to how we should have always been working. But
go back to work. When
it's raining real estate, you do what you need to do, right? The business is growing, and so you handle the business coming at you. I have a theory that it's not the skills that we're talking about that agents or LOs need to really be focusing on right now. It's that the one skill no one's talking about that should be the main focus for all of us is mindset.
Sure.
Endurance, right? How you're saying, hey, my buddy didn't make it through the storm. Like, it's that. It's having the mindset of endurance, because if you've got that, then it's going to be no problem that you have to get in at 9 and lead generate. It's going to be no problem that you should go to a 2-hour training.
Sure.
Because your mind is already set on the commitment of, in order to be successful, you've got to see this through.
Yeah, 100% agreed. I think in this market, more now than ever, you have to work harder to get a lower result. And I think that people feel that that's disappointing or that they're not doing as well. Well, the truth is not nobody out there is doing as well as we were. Right. But it's just like you said, it's having that mindset of knowing that this is just kind of a hurdle. This is just a bump. This is a little bit weird of a market. If you continuously do the right things, eventually, all of a sudden, it's going to pop off. And as long as you tread water and stay alive and do your very best. And I think your husband had a really good point. I don't know if this was at a meeting of his or maybe even, I guess it doesn't really matter, but he had made mention of right now you have to be doing all of the things that will make you successful in the future. And I'm paraphrasing what he was saying, but it's the idea of continuously making phone calls and making sure that you're following up with your buyers, making sure that you're relevant. Yes, it's tough, but eventually this will pass. And as long as you have the most contacts, you've had the most conversations, and you've got the most people out there, when it does get easier, you're going to be king of the castle again.
That's it. Yes. I think it's, Justin and I are obsessed with Survivor stuff. So not like the cheeky, like you're voted off the island, but the reality of what it takes to survive when you're put in those real situations. We've watched a lot of documentaries and things like that. And it is always the person with the mental toughness.
Yeah.
It's never, the super buff guy or the super buff girl. It's always the one that has the mental toughness of saying, I'm just not going to quit.
Yeah.
I will keep going. going. I'm not going to stop when you stop. I'm going to keep going. And that is the marketplace we're in. Like, where are your survival skills at?
Yeah.
Pull them out. This is it.
100%. Keep fighting. Know that it's going to get better, and just, refuse to be mediocre. Continue to keep pushing, because it is going to clear. It already is. It's starting to pick up right now.
It is.
A little bit.
It is. Little by little.
Yep. Cool.
All right. So it's, what would you say is your favorite pastime activity outside of work?
Am I allowed to still be doing it?
I mean, yeah, you still do it. If you don't name what I'm thinking right now, you're lying to the public.
Love two things very much, and my wife likes one of them. I love to golf.
There it is.
I do a lot of that. We're at a club out in Oakland Township, and she was so ticked off at me for getting us into this membership, and now she actually plays more than I do.
There you go.
So it's
Shout out Megan.
Yes. We can get old together in golf, and it's something that we'll be able to do, hopefully, God willing, into our 70s, 80s kind of.
Yes.
My other secret is not that much of a secret, and the one that my wife hates is I am a gamer.
You're a gamer.
I love video games. Yes.
Okay, like what kind of gamer? There's so many different levels. Are we talking you've got screens set up and it's like super, you have a chair, it's a special chair?
I have 2 gamers chairs.
Oh my gosh.
I have multiple monitors. I have big screen TVs.
Okay.
I am like a giant child when it comes to that world.
I love it. I was just thinking about, what is that movie, Gamer One?
Ready Player One.
That's what it was. That's what I was picturing when I'm like screens and it's special. You've got avatars. I don't know what's happening.
We've got some pretty cool stuff. My kid's 16. He's into it as well. It's a way that him and I can bond.
That's lovely.
Yep.
Yeah. Is this like, are we talking daily? Is it once a week?
I don't get to do it
until 3 a.m.?
So I pick and choose my battles.
Okay.
My wife likes attention, of course, and I work a lot, and there's the golf thing. We get to golf a lot together, so that helps out.
Yeah.
But there's days where maybe I'll play a couple days a week. There's sometimes I don't get to play at all during the week.
Sure. Sure.
But I'm not going to lie, selfishly, I try to get away with it as much as I can, up until the point where I realize my wife's going to wring my neck, and then we probably
you go like
off.
7, 8, 9 mad, and then you're like, I'm not into it this week, actually.
Sometimes I get lucky and she's tired and wants to go to bed early, and it doesn't matter if I have an 8 a.m.
like,
meeting.
You do, darn.
Well, I'll just be out here.
Come on.
I'll do a little work and maybe some gaming. I don't know.
Whatever we can get to. That's amazing.